The first time I heard the sound, I thought it was the pipes. A dull, rhythmic knock, knock, knock coming from somewhere down the hallway. The old hotel breathed with age. Its walls swelled and sighed in the night. But this sound was different. Intentional. Alive. I stepped out of my room, barefoot on the thin carpet, and followed the noise toward the end of the corridor. The hallway lights flickered in uneven pulses, as if trying to keep time with the knocking. Every door I passed had a tarnished brass number, except the last one. Its plate had been pried off, leaving two empty screw holes like blind eyes staring back. That door was locked. A heavy iron handle, flaked with rust, and a small sign beneath the keyhole. "Do not enter. Maintenance." But the knocking came from behind it. "Hello?" I called. The noise stopped. For a long, thick moment, the silence was absolute. Even the hum of the old ceiling light seemed to die. I crouched, pressing my ear against the door. Nothing, just the faint smell of mildew and something else, like burnt hair. I reached for the handle. It was cold. Then, from the other side came the sound of breathing, slow, ragged, wet. I stumbled back, my pulse thudding in my throat. "Is someone in there?" No answer. I turned to leave, and that's when I heard it. A whisper so close it could have been spoken into my ear, yet it came from behind the door, a voice, low, trembling, barely human. "Don't let him out." The light flickered once more, and the knocking started again, faster this time. The next morning, sunlight tried to fight its way through the heavy curtains, but only managed to stain the room a weak yellow. The hotel always seemed to exist halfway between day and night, as if it had forgotten what real daylight looked like. I hadn't slept much. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that sound again, the steady, patient knocking. My dreams were corridors, endless and repeating, each door whispering my name. When I finally forced myself to go downstairs, the lobby was empty except for a single desk lamp that hummed like a trapped fly. The reception counter was a chipped slab of wood with a plastic bell sitting crooked on top. Behind it, an old key cabinet lined the wall. Most hooks were empty, but a few still held dusty brass keys, each dangling from a cracked leather tag. I rang the bell. No one came. Only after I rang it a second time did a man shuffle out from the back office. Mid-50s, maybe older. His hair was gray, his uniform wrinkled, his expression somewhere between sleep and sorrow. "Morning," I said, trying to sound casual. "I'm in room 309. Last night I heard someone knocking, from one of the locked rooms down the hall." He paused mid-step. "Which room?" "The one without a number plate." It had a maintenance sign. The man's face stiffened. Just for a moment. Then he smiled, thin and forced. "Pipes, old building. They echo funny." It wasn't the pipes. He didn't answer right away. He adjusted the ledger on the counter, avoiding my eyes. "Third floor's closed, past room 311, he murmured. "No guests there. That door stays locked. So why did I hear someone inside?" The man finally looked up. His eyes were red, rimmed with something close to fear. "Don't go near that room again," he said quietly. "We don't open it anymore." Before I could press further, the phone rang behind him, a sharp metallic sound that made us both flinch. He turned quickly, muttered something, and disappeared into the back office, leaving me standing there with the bell still trembling from my last ring. The hotel itself was called the Seafarer's Rest, a name that promised comfort, but everything about it felt weary, unsettled. It clung to the edge of a cliff, overlooking a gray, endless ocean that moaned against the rocks below. Paint peeled from the walls in long strips like old skin, and the carpet smelled faintly of salt and mold. I'd come here for quiet, a place to finish some overdue paperwork for my consulting firm. But the silence here didn't feel peaceful. It pressed against me, heavy and aware. That evening, the corridors seemed longer than they had before. The wallpaper, faded green with curling edges, seemed to ripple faintly when I passed. I told myself it was just air from the vents. When I reached my room, I noticed something new, a dark smear near the bottom of my door. Like someone had dragged a wet hand across the wood. I touched it. Sticky, smelled faintly metallic. Inside, everything was as I'd left it, except the curtains were drawn open. I was sure I'd left them closed. Outside, the ocean moved like a living thing, slow, endless, uncaring. I turned away. That's when I saw it. On the carpet just inside my door lay a small brass key. Old, tarnished, the number tag long gone. I froze. There was no reason it should be there. I knelt and picked it up. It was colder than metal should be. The teeth of the key were jagged, uneven, as if they'd been filed by hand. I don't know why, but I knew exactly what door it belonged to. Dinner that night was in the hotel's dining room, if you could call it that. Only 2 tables were occupied, a couple whispering over soup, and an elderly woman sitting alone by the window, staring out at the sea. The waiter moved quietly between them, his face expressionless. I asked him, "That locked room on the 3rd floor, what's in there?" He froze mid-step. "You mean the old maintenance room?" "I heard something inside last night." His eyes flicked toward the manager's office door. "Sir, please don't talk about that." "Not out loud," I frowned. "Why not?" He leaned closer, his voice a shaky whisper. "He still checks in sometimes." "Who?" The waiter straightened suddenly, his face empty again. "Enjoy your meal, sir." He turned and walked away, leaving me staring after him. Back in my room, the wind howled outside, shaking the windows. The lamp flickered twice and went dim. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the brass key. Every time I looked at it, I felt something between my ribs, a quiet pull, a curiosity that didn't feel entirely my own. I set it on the bedside table and tried to sleep. The dreams came immediately, a corridor, stretching forever. The same patterned carpet, the same flickering light. I was walking toward the end, toward that door, and behind it, something breathed in time with my footsteps. When I woke, the lamp was off, the room was cold, and the key was gone. For a moment, I just sat there disoriented. Then I noticed the door. My room door was cracked open just slightly. I stood, heart thudding, and reached for it. There, on the floor just outside, the brass key waited again. Only now, it had a number etched faintly into its tag, one that hadn't been there before. I called the front desk, but the line only buzzed with static. When I stepped into the hallway, the air felt heavier, the walls closer. From far down the corridor came that familiar sound again. Slow, deliberate knock, knock, knock. It was the same rhythm, the same direction. The door without a number plate. This time I didn't call out. I just stood there in the dim light, holding the key. Something, or someone, was waiting on the other side, and though I knew I shouldn't, every part of me wanted to see. I didn't sleep the next night either. Every sound in the hotel felt like it was meant for me. The groan of the plumbing, the creak of the floorboards, the whisper of the wind through the vents. Everything seemed to come from that same direction. Down the hall, near the unmarked door. Room 313. I kept the brass key in my pocket. I told myself it was just to stop thinking about it, but that was a lie. It felt like it was humming, faintly warm against my thigh, as if the metal remembered fingers that weren't mine. In daylight, the 3rd floor looked harmless. The carpet threadbare but clean, the light pale and patient. Yet the space seemed crooked somehow. I'd pace the corridor, count the doors, then count again, and the number changed. Sometimes 12, sometimes 13. Once I counted 11, but I swear I hadn't skipped any. When I asked the cleaning woman about it, she froze mid-swipe of her mop. 3rd floor, she said. Her accent made the words soft, almost prayer-like. I don't clean that one. No one does. Why? She didn't look up. We leave it alone, then quieter. He doesn't like change. I asked who he was, but she just wheeled her bucket away, the mop handle rattling like bones. That afternoon, I went down to the lobby again. The manager was gone. A different man sat behind the counter, tapping absently at a stack of receipts. "Do you have any old records?" I asked. "Guest ledgers, maybe?" "I'm researching local architecture, and I'm curious how long this place has been here." He looked up. "Seafarer's Rest? Opened in 1958. Had a different name before that." "Why?" "Just curiosity," I said. "Was there ever an accident here?" He blinked at me slow. "Depends what you mean by accident. Someone disappeared. He didn't move for a while, then leaned back in his chair. You found the key, didn't you?" My throat went dry. "What?" He nodded to himself like he'd expected it. "He always leaves it for someone." "Who?" The man's eyes unfocused, fixed somewhere behind me. "The guest who never checked out. I found the hotel's name in the archives that evening. The Marrow House, 1958 to 1974. Then it closed after a fire on the third floor. The article showed a black and white photo of smoke rolling out of broken windows. 3 guests dead. 1 missing. The missing guest's name was faint under the crease of the page. Elias Kern. He'd been a traveling salesman. Stayed in room 313. Never found. I closed the newspaper and rubbed the back of my neck. I could still feel the weight of that brass key in my pocket, like a pulse. That night, the ocean was louder than usual. I lay in bed listening to it crash against the cliffs, a slow rhythm like something enormous breathing beneath the waves. I must have drifted off because the next thing I knew, the phone on my bedside table rang, a shrill, old-fashioned bell tone. I picked it up, only static, then a voice, faint and distant, breaking through the hiss. "He's still in the room." I froze. "Who is this?" The line crackled, then went dead. The lamp flickered, and from the hallway came a single knock. I opened the door. The corridor stretched ahead, half-lit, air thick with dust and sleep. The knocking had stopped, but the silence was heavier than before. I took a step forward. The carpet sighed beneath my feet. Another step, and the lights flickered again, slower this time. Halfway down the hall, I saw it. Room 313's door stood slightly ajar. I should have run. I knew that. But curiosity, no, recognition, pulled me closer. The door opened just enough to show the edge of a chair. Someone was sitting there motionless, facing the wall. I whispered, "Hello?" The figure didn't move. Then, slowly, its head began to turn. I bolted. Back in my room, I slammed the door, pressed my back against it, gasping. My reflection in the mirror looked wrong, too pale, eyes too wide. When I finally looked down, the brass key was gone again. The next morning, the hallway looked perfectly normal. The door to 313 was shut tight, the maintenance sign nailed back into place. I could almost convince myself I'd dreamed it, until I noticed the burn mark on my wrist. A faint circular scar, as if something hot had brushed against me. At breakfast, the waiter avoided my table. The elderly woman by the window was there again, stirring her tea without drinking it. When I caught her gaze, she smiled faintly and motioned for me to join her. "You heard it, didn't you?" She said. "What?" "The knocking." I stared at her. "You've heard it too?" She nodded. "Everyone does once. Before they leave. Leave the hotel." Her spoon clicked against the cup. "Leave for good." I waited, but she didn't explain. Just looked out toward the gray horizon. "He waits for someone to listen," she said softly. "That's how he gets out." Before I could ask more, she rose, smoothed her shawl, and shuffled away. Her cup still trembled on the table. By evening, the wind had picked up. The building moaned with every gust, old beams shifting in protest. I decided to confront the manager again, but his office was empty, the door half open, a small desk lamp burning beside a ledger. Inside the ledger, every page for the last month was blank except one, my name. Room 309, check-in 2 days ago. Checkout. Beside it, written in a different hand, was another line, Elias Kern, room 313. Checked in, 1972. Checked out. The ink looked fresh. A noise made me spin around. From down the hall came a scraping sound, like wood dragging over wood. I followed it, every instinct screaming to turn back. The corridor seemed darker now, longer. The numbers on the doors flickered as I passed, digits shifting like they were being rewritten in real time. When I reached the end, room 313's door was open again. The smell hit me first, stale air, mildew, and something like burnt fabric. I stepped inside. The room was small, furnished like every other, bed, chair, dresser, window. But everything was reversed, a perfect mirror of my own room. Even the picture on the wall, an old photograph of the sea, hung in opposite alignment, and on the bed lay a suitcase identical to mine. I opened it. Inside were clothes, my clothes, but older, faded, and smelling faintly of smoke. At the bottom was a folded newspaper clipping, salesman missing after hotel fire, Elias Kern, age 42. My vision swam. The mirror above the dresser caught my movement. For a moment I thought I saw someone standing behind me, a man in a gray suit, face half burned, eyes hollow. When I turned, the room was empty. Then the door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed the space. The light bulb hissed out with a sharp pop. I reached for the handle. Locked. The brass key was cold in my pocket again, though I hadn't felt it there before. I jammed it into the lock. It wouldn't turn. From the corner came a whisper. "You shouldn't have opened it." I stumbled backward until my hand hit the wall. The wallpaper felt damp. Beneath it, something pulsed, slow, like a heartbeat. "Who's there?" I shouted. Silence, then another whisper, overlapping the first. A dozen voices, maybe more, whispering in unison. He never left. The floorboards creaked. A shadow moved near the bed, in the flicker of a passing car's headlights outside. I saw him, Elias Kern, standing where the chair had been, his head tilted, his lips moving soundlessly. He raised his hand, pointing at me. The skin of his fingers was blackened, cracked. Then he spoke, and the words sounded like mine. "You checked in." I woke up on the floor of my own room, the door wide open. Morning light bled across the carpet. For a few seconds I couldn't tell if I was dreaming. My watch had stopped at 3:13 a.m. Everything looked normal again. The mirror clean. The suitcase closed. But when I looked closer, I noticed the reflection lagged. A fraction of a second behind my movements. I packed my things, ready to leave. But when I went downstairs, the receptionist wasn't there. Only the bell. I rang it once. From the hallway behind the counter came that same knocking. Muffled by distance, a door creaked open. I turned to go, and saw the wall of room keys. Every hook was empty except one. Tag 3/13. The brass key hung there, swaying slightly, as if it had just been placed. That night I drove out of town. The road hugged the cliffs, the sea below black and restless. I didn't stop until the lights of the hotel were just a faint shimmer in the distance. But when I checked my rearview mirror, I saw a figure standing in the road behind me, tall, motionless, watching. I blinked, and he was gone. I reached into my pocket for my car keys. The brass key was there instead. Back at home, I tried to throw it away. I dropped it in the garbage, flushed it down the toilet, even drove to the pier and tossed it into the sea. The next morning, it was on my nightstand. I called the hotel. The line connected, but no one spoke. Then a faint whisper, "Your room's ready." That evening, a letter arrived, no return address. Inside was a single line written in neat handwriting, "Check-in confirmed. Room 313 awaits." And at the bottom, beneath my name, another scrawl in darker ink, "Don't let him out. The dreams are worse now." Every night I walk those same corridors, the air thick and damp. Sometimes the doors are numbered differently. Sometimes they whisper when I pass, but always, at the end, the same door waits for me, open just a little, light leaking through the crack, something breathing inside. I tell myself I won't go in, but each night I get closer. I don't remember the drive back to the hotel. One moment I was on the coastal road, rain streaking across the windshield, and the next I was pulling into the cracked parking lot of the Seafarer's Rest. The neon sign flickered weakly, spelling only half its name, CRST, as if even the building had forgotten what it once was. I told myself I just needed to return the key, hand it to the desk, walk away. But the lobby was empty again. The bell sat crooked, the ledger half open. Behind the counter, the office door stood ajar, darkness breathing through the gap. "Hello?" My voice echoed too loud. No answer. Something about the air felt thicker, slower, like the whole building was holding its breath. The smell of smoke lingered faintly, old, trapped in the walls. I should have left. I should have run. But the pull of the corridor was irresistible, familiar, inevitable. The third floor greeted me like a memory I didn't want. Every bulb buzzed in protest, spilling pale light that made the wallpaper look wet. The doors stood silent, numbers uneven. My steps were soundless, as if the carpet swallowed them. When I reached the end, room 313 waited, door half open, light leaking through the crack in a steady pulse. I whispered to the air, "You wanted me back." From inside came the faint reply, "We never left." I pushed the door. It opened without resistance. Inside, the room had changed. The air shimmered, heavy with heat and dust. The walls were darker, streaked with soot. The bed frame sagged, and the window was cracked from corner to corner, and on the chair sat me, or what looked like me. He was turned slightly toward the light, face pale, eyes hollow, wearing the same clothes I had on. The only difference was the burns crawling up one side of his neck, shiny, black, and still smoldering faintly as if the fire that made them hadn't gone out. I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. He beat me to it. "You left me here." His voice was my own, scraped raw. "No," I managed. You checked out." I didn't. The lights flickered. The window outside showed not the sea, but a wall of flame rolling endlessly against the glass. "I'm not supposed to be here," I said. He smiled, slow and wrong. "None of us are." Something shifted behind him. A shadow peeled itself off the wall, tall, limbless, moving like smoke. It hovered near the ceiling, its outline bleeding into the plaster. When it spoke, its voice was a chorus of whispers, all in perfect unison. "Open the door." My other self turned toward it, trembling. "He won't. He must." I stepped back. "What are you?" The thing rippled, and in the flicker I saw faces within it. Dozens, hundreds, each mouth open, each pair of eyes hollow. They blinked in and out like film frames burning away. "We are what stays," the voices said. "What you leave behind when you run." My reflection, my other self, stood and faced me. "Every guest leaves something," he said. "A secret, a sin, a name. That's what feeds it. You left me." The floor began to tremble. Dust rained from the ceiling. In the mirror above the dresser, the reflection didn't match the room anymore. It showed the corridor outside, fire spilling down its length, doors warping in the heat. The voices grew louder. "He's ready." "Let him out." My double skin blistered, then cracked. Flames licked beneath it like light through old parchment. "Take it back," he rasped. "You have to take it back." "What?" He grabbed my wrist. His hand burned cold. The brand on my skin, the faint circle I'd woken with days ago, flared to life, glowing orange. The whispers surged until the room itself vibrated. "Open it." The door slammed shut on its own, then locked. I lunged for it, the key biting into my palm. I shoved it into the keyhole. The metal burned my fingers. The moment it turned, a blast of air hit me, a rush of heat, smoke, screams. The walls vanished. I was standing in the same hallway, but it wasn't the same time. The wallpaper was new, unburned. The air smelled of fresh paint and ocean salt. A man in a gray suit, Elias Kern, hurried down the corridor, suitcase in hand. I could hear faint laughter from other rooms, a radio playing somewhere distant. He stopped at room 313, inserted his key, hesitated. I was frozen, invisible, watching through some impossible lens of time. Another man, the manager, younger then, appeared behind him. "Sir, that room's not ready yet." Elias frowned. "You said it was fine." "Not yet," the manager insisted. Elias turned the key anyway. The door swung open, revealing only darkness inside. He stepped forward. The moment he crossed the threshold, the hallway lights exploded. Fire roared through the room, blooming outward in seconds. The manager screamed. People fled, and through the flames, Elias turned, his face melting. His mouth open, and looked directly at me as though he could see me standing there. "Out of time. You're next," he said. The world snapped back. I was in the burned room again, smoke swirling, floorboards glowing. My other self lay on the floor, charred and still. The whispering had stopped. Only the ticking of the wall clock remained, slow, deliberate. I staggered toward the door, coughing. My hand found the knob. Cool now, almost gentle. I pulled it open. Instead of the hallway, I saw the lobby below, empty and vast, lit by the flicker of the neon sign outside. At the reception desk, the ledger lay open to a new page. I descended the stairs, each step echoing too long, like the building was hollow inside. When I reached the counter, the manager stood there again, older now, eyes dull, face waxen. "Leaving us?" he asked. "I have to," I said. He nodded slowly. "Most think that." I slid the brass key onto the counter. "I'm done." He looked down at it, then back at me. "You can't return what's yours." The key rattled, rolled to the edge, and dropped onto the floor with a sharp clink. I turned to go, but behind me, pages of the ledger began flipping on their own. They stopped on a blank line, and ink bled upward from the paper, forming letters one by one. Checkout, 3:13 a.m. I looked at the clock on the wall. The hands were already there. 13. The building groaned, deep and alive. Doors on every floor slammed open in perfect rhythm. The firelight returned, blooming through cracks in the walls. The air filled with smoke and voices, hundreds whispering the same plea. "Don't let him out." I ran for the entrance. The lobby doors were gone, replaced by the endless hallway again. Door after door, number after number, repeating like a loop. 309, 311, 313, 309. I screamed, but it came out as static. My reflection flashed in every brass number plate, distorted, aging, burning, splitting into two. At the corridor's end stood the figure from before, Elias, or maybe me, waiting. He spoke softly. "It's already open." The walls rippled, paper tearing to reveal flame beneath. I closed my eyes. "What happens if I don't close it?" He smiled. Then we trade places. The lights burst. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. Then I was standing behind the reception desk, the bell cool beneath my hand. The lobby was whole again. Morning sunlight filtered through the dusty windows. A man entered, the first guest I'd seen in days. He smiled politely and said, "I have a reservation." "Room 309. I nodded without thinking, reaching for the ledger. My handwriting filled the page automatically. "Welcome to the Seafarer's Rest," I said. My voice sounded older, calmer. When he walked toward the stairs, I looked down. The brass key in my hand read 313. Outside, the sea crashed against the cliffs in a steady rhythm. The hotel exhaled through its vents, content for now. In the distance, I could already hear the faint knocking beginning again. 3 slow beats echoing through the pipes. Knock, knock, knock. I looked at the clock. 3:13 p.m., exactly 12 hours until it started over. The silence afterward was the kind that feels alive. Not the stillness of peace, but of something holding its breath. The hallway was gone. Or maybe it had never really existed. My body trembled as I stumbled forward, but every direction folded back into itself. Endless doors, endless wallpaper, the same number etched above them all. 313. I called out once. My voice didn't echo. It was absorbed, swallowed. Somewhere beneath the hum of unseen lights, I heard the sound again, the slow drag of movement, like something pulling itself across carpet. A shape flickered at the edge of my vision, a shadow that didn't belong to me. I reached for the nearest door, my hands slick with sweat, and twisted the handle. It opened without resistance. The room beyond was my own. Same furniture. Same smell of damp salt. Same bed, unmade. Only one thing had changed. The window was gone. Replaced by a mirror, and inside the mirror, the reflection of my room looked wrong. Subtly, terribly wrong. The lamp was turned off in the real world, but glowing in the reflection. The door behind me was open there, but in my room it was shut. I stepped closer. My reflection did not. It watched, then, slowly, it began to smile. When I came to, I was lying on the floor. The room was quiet again. The mirror was cracked from corner to corner, but I couldn't remember breaking it. The air was heavy, thick with the faint smell of rust and mold. The clock on the nightstand blinked 3:13 a.m. Of course it did. I sat up, but my body felt wrong, sluggish, like I'd been underwater for too long. My thoughts came in fragments. The knocking, the man at the desk, the key. It was on the floor beside me, glinting in the faint light. But now it wasn't brass, it was black, tarnished beyond recognition, as if it had aged a century in minutes. The number was gone. By morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it all. The human mind protects itself with denial. I leaned into it, packed my bag, checked the mirror one last time. Cracked, yes, but ordinary. When I stepped into the hallway, it looked different. Too clean. No stains, no peeling wallpaper. The silence felt staged, heavy and rehearsed. I walked toward the elevator. No sign of life, no other guests. Only the hum of unseen machinery. The lobby was empty. The front desk unattended. On the counter sat the guest ledger. I don't know why I looked. Curiosity, maybe. Habit. Or that quiet pull again. The one that had never quite left me. The page for my check-in was there, dated correctly. But underneath, faintly imprinted into the paper like a shadow burned by heat, was another name. Same room number, same handwriting, different date. October 17th, 1987. The name was mine. I left the hotel without checking out. The sky was pale and cold, the ocean below rolling like a gray lung. My car started on the first try, but the rearview mirror showed something strange. The hotel behind me looked newer, restored, no broken windows, no missing shingles, and for one fleeting second, a figure stood in one of the upper windows, watching. The world outside didn't feel right anymore. The air felt thinner. People moved slower. I tried to tell myself it was exhaustion or stress, but everywhere I went, there were mirrors in store windows, car glass, bathroom sinks, and each one reflected something slightly off. Once, I saw a hand in the reflection reach out a heartbeat before mine did. Another time, my reflection's mouth stayed closed when I spoke. I stopped looking eventually, but that didn't stop it from watching. 2 weeks passed before I found the newspaper article. I wasn't looking for it. It was folded between the pages of a library book I'd borrowed. Yellowed, brittle, dated decades back. Local hotel fire claims 6, third floor, sealed after tragedy. The photo showed the same building. The Seafarer's Rest. The text was short, factual. An electrical fault. No survivors found in rooms 309 to 313. The wing had been boarded up, but some locals claimed to still hear voices from within. Someone had circled a sentence at the bottom in red ink. Guests report hearing knocks late at night, as if someone is still waiting to be let out. That night, I couldn't sleep. The room I was renting now, miles away from the coast, felt too quiet. I got up for water, passing the mirror in the hall. There was someone standing in it, not behind me. Not next to me, in it. It was hard to make out details, but I knew the posture. The tilt of the head, the faint wrong smile, me. The reflection blinked, but I didn't. A whisper came through the glass, so faint I almost missed it. Room 313, it said. You never left. I smashed the mirror. Glass scattered across the floor like shards of ice. My heart was hammering, but even as I turned away, I realized something. The sound didn't stop. The whispering continued, coming from the walls, soft at first, then clearer. Words bending through the air like breath. He's still here. Let him in. It's your room now. I covered my ears. But it didn't matter. The voice wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside my head. The days blurred. I stopped answering my phone. Stopped eating. Sometimes I'd wake up standing in front of a door that wasn't there the night before. Just a blank stretch of wall with a faint outline, as though painted over hastily. Each time I'd hear the same thing behind it. Knock, 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 always 3 knocks. Always slow, and every time a part of me wanted to open it more. I thought about going back to the hotel, to end it properly, whatever it was. But when I tried to look it up again, online, on maps, even in old directories, the Seafarer's Rest wasn't listed. No record of its existence. No trace at all. It was as if the building had been erased. Or maybe... I don't write this for help. I know no one will believe me. I write it because I need to remember which side I'm on. Because lately, when I look in the reflection of my laptop screen, I see something moving in the background. A corridor, faded wallpaper, a door with the number 313, and every time it's a little bit closer, there's a mirror across from my bed now. I didn't put it there. It wasn't here yesterday, but I can see the reflection of a hallway inside it. My hallway, and there's a door at the end. Someone standing in front of it, knocking. 3 times. Slow. Patient. I want to look away, but my body won't move. My reflection turns to face me, eyes dark, smiling faintly. And behind it, the door begins to open. The light flickers. The sound stops. Only the silence remains. And in it, I finally understand. I never checked out. No one ever does.